Hey, everybody! I don't know how many are watching. I can't really see, but I'm betting there's like 100.
I think it's 1,000.
1,000. Oh, wow. All right. So, it's been a couple weeks, but we do have some good news. We're kind of liking this. This format's working for the both of us. Seems pretty sustainable, so we're gonna go weekly with it. Ride that out, see how it goes. Could be good, could be bad. We don't know until we try. But anyway, so I need to get the doc pulled up so I can tell what I'm talking about. As you can tell, I am on top of things. Okay, there we go. I need just a second to like reset my brain. How was your week, Ace? You doing good? Uh-oh. Did I lose Ace?
Yeah, I think we're good now. I cut out there for a second, but I think we're good.
Whew. Had me scared.
It's probably the glare off of my head interfering with the stream, I think. Knocking satellites out of orbit.
Goodbye, Starlink. So how have you been, man? Been doing good?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad at all. It's been a good couple of weeks.
Well, good. Doing anything interesting? Growing more cherry trees or?
Always. No, we took the kids out camping. And when I say camping, I cannot stand to be outside. I don't like, and I'm a little bit of a sissy. I don't like dirt. I don't like heat. I don't like anything to do with the outside for the most part. So I go out in the morning and I spend most of the day there, and then I come back and sleep in my warm bed. So that's how I camp. But we did that. Other than that, I'm trying to think what I've been playing lately. Because it was good stuff, but I just, for some reason, I can't remember.
Yeah, I haven't had much chance to play games. As some of you who follow me on Twitter know, I bought a new piece of furniture, a credenza, for the fun room, and have been slowly turning it into my retro game station. Actually pulled a muscle in my arm trying to lift it. It has to weigh 200 pounds. Has to. Me and my brother-in-law's a drill rig operator, so he's like pretty stout and buff. And man, it must have been comical to watch us like shuffle through the house trying to carry this thing. But got it all set up, was like literally plugging in cables right before I clicked on Skype to Skype Ace here. But hopefully we're good.
It's in place. It's where it needs to be now.
Exactly.
Hopefully it will never move.
It may stay with the house if we ever sell the house. That and my wife's piano. Actually, I can't get rid of the piano, but.
Well, let me tell you, we have a piano, and if I move, it's staying.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we actually, a couple of years ago, we got a treadmill, and we decided we were going to put it in our basement. So I built it upstairs and then carried it down our basement steps to the basement. We'll never do that again.
You're like, I almost would rather ride it down the stairs.
It was so heavy and awkward at the same time, because you know how they pivot right past the motor, so you have almost the entire weight of the treadmill is in front of the motor, in front of that pivot point, and then the motor itself is so heavy that carrying it with two people and going downstairs, it wanted to flex and do all kinds of stuff. So that thing's never going to move.
No good. Oh wow. Yeah. Didn't play many games. Still practicing my Super Mario speedrunning shenanigans every once in a while. Can't get below that 14-minute mark. It's like every practice round, it's like the 1450 something I hit on stream. It's like I can get right there, but just can't beat it.
Whenever I play Mario nowadays, I can get to about 5 minutes before I quit. I cannot play that game. I loved it when I was a kid, and I still appreciate, Mario, the concept, but I cannot play it. I don't have the patience for it. And, you play for 3 hours and then start all over. It's just like Contra.
Yeah. That's the brutal thing about, like, these old games. Like, thankfully, EverDrives and stuff like that are starting to support save states. Makes it a little better, but yeah, I remember many times back in the day, like, even if it did have a save, it seemed like my brother always deleted it. So, like, I was constantly going back to square one, but yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's get into it here. Axiom Verge 2. I've never seen Axiom Verge 1. I see here you have something to tell us about Axiom Verge 2.
Yeah, so if you don't know anything about Axiom Verge, it's a very beloved genre of games of mine called Metroidvania. Again, plays like a Metroid game, plays like Castlevania, so you just blend them together. Basically, you go through a fairly open environment. You have to get better weapons to progress further in the game, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, Axiom Verge was a Kickstarter, I believe, and it got funded really quickly. It did really well. Almost a clone of the very first Metroid game. And thankfully, they surprised us. Oh, I don't want to watch picture-in-picture. Go away. But anyway, they surprised us with the sequel. As you can tell, it keeps with like the 16-bit like visuals and everything. And if it's half as good as the first one, like, I will play the crap out of this game. Because the first one had everything you would want. I mean, it had really cool art. It had really awesome music. And it actually had a pretty deep storyline where if you didn't, like, completionist the crap out of the game, like, you would have no idea what the story was about. Because it was so convoluted. Like, I played through it quickly once, and I was like, I don't get this at all. Like, what even happened? But yeah, so out of nowhere, like, no marketing, no nothing. They were just like, hey, new game's going live today. Like, you can get it on Switch, and it'll follow on PS4 and PC and all that good stuff later. So, haven't got it yet, but plan on getting it.
I wonder how they're going to do without the marketing as opposed to how well they would have done with the marketing.
I don't know, because, like, I saw it everywhere on launch day. It was all over Twitch. It was all over, like, social media and stuff. Like, if you follow anybody that plays games, it was like, everybody's like, hey, new Axiom Verge. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's definitely a strategy where it can bite you in the butt pretty hard, or it could
Mm-hmm.
be a massive success, because a lot of times what gets me with pre-orders is it's not a finite thing. You can't own it as soon as you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So doing something like this, kind of, you get to play it in that hype. You don't get the hype and then, like, 2-3 months later the game comes out, or if you're waiting on Half-Life 3 forever. But you get to experience the game while you're still, like, excited about it, and then of course you're gonna tell everybody.
That's a good point, and I didn't really think about that, because you think about what's that? The fact that I forgot the name of it probably speaks to it. But Bethesda's new title, Starfield. There's Starfield or Starfall, I think. Anyways, whatever it is, we're looking forward to that now. But are we going to be looking forward to it 2 years from now? Maybe not quite as much. So I think there's probably some validity to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like they could have done something, though. The week before, put something out. Because as somebody who never played Axiom Verge, something, the little bit of looking into it I did before the stream, I was kind of like, well, how haven't I heard of this? This looks like something that's really cool. So, maybe if they'd have put up a YouTube campaign or something like that, somebody like me might have saw it and thought, worth trying. But maybe not.
Yep, never know. It's definitely a risky move, and I definitely applaud Thomas Happ Games for attempting that, because that's very risky, especially if you're a small company like that.
Yeah, and you do have to look at results. I mean, obviously they're doing well, so
Mm-hmm.
it worked for them. So Apex Legends, for anybody who's familiar with Apex Legends, it's a first-person shooter, or not first-person. It is kind of, but anyways, it's like Halo. Man alive, I can't talk today. It's like Fortnite. It's like
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite, something like that. One of the what do they call those? The battle royales.
Yeah.
It's one of the battle royale games. It's actually, personally, it's my favorite of them. I pretty much don't like the battle royale genre as a whole, but I do like Apex Legends. And what's going on with them is some of the players right now are calling for them to add some features from Halo Infinite, and specifically with the seasons or whatever, that battle pass.
Yeah.
And see, all these terms are new to me or not new, but unfamiliar, because I don't play this kind of game generally. But anyways, their battle pass in the past, as I'm sure everybody's aware, when you buy a battle pass, or I should say currently, when you buy a battle pass, you get that battle pass and you play it and level up through the different levels. And then, once the season's over, then the battle pass disappears. So anything that you haven't unlocked, you lose. I've never personally bought a battle pass in anything because of that reason. I just think it's so stupid to pay money for something that I may not achieve. With Halo Infinite, they do that differently. You unlock a battle pass and you own that battle pass forever. So you can come back 3 years from now and continue to level up through that same pass and get the features that you wanted out of it. So essentially, you're buying the items, and you just have to take time to unlock it. So a lot of people have gotten together. They're trying to get that released. I would love to see it released on Apex Legends, and hopefully other games as well. I hope this starts something new.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. I wasn't sure how all that stuff really worked. I figured it was kind of like what darn DRM is it that does it? I think Origin, they give you like a game a month. I thought Battle Pass was just like a one-time purchase. I didn't realize that it was like a temporary thing. But
yeah, I mean, and it is a one-time pass, but if you buy it once, let's say it's the beginning of the season or the year-long season, whatever, you buy it once, and they will give you a progression system where you have, let's say levels 1 through 20 of the battle pass. As you play and you're getting racking up kills, stuff like that, getting points, you're progressing through that. At tier 2 you're going to unlock a skin for a gun, and then at tier 3 you're going to unlock a character skin or something, all the way up through tier 20. And say they charge $20 for it. At the end of the year, if you haven't gotten to level 20, then you paid $20 for the whatever. Let's say you get 7 levels, you paid $20 for 7 levels. Whereas somebody else will pay it, they get all the way through and play all that gameplay, and then they have access to it all. And frankly, for somebody like me and like you, there's just not enough time for you to go through and play all of that content, and so it's not so appealing, which is probably why we didn't really get the full aspect of what it was in the first place.
It was so funny. Like I'm so out of touch with the new consoles. Like I can't remember if I said this on the last podcast or not, but I worked at a game store for a little while, and one of the other employees had to like show me how to turn on a PS4. I was like, I swear I know video games, I just don't know this new stuff.
Well, in all fairness, they did kind of hide the button on that one, so I'm going to put that on PlayStation. I'm going to give you a pass.
Give me a Game Pass. Yeah, so I'm super interested in this little next article you put up about Nerf Legends. This looks so cool.
It does, and I watched the video for it, or the trailer for it. It looks really fun, and usually in the past, I'm thinking about games like the 7-Up Spot, which some people like, but you have 7-Up Spot and all those kind of games that are based on products. They usually are pretty garbage, and this one actually looks kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like it kind of gives me Overwatch vibes, and again, I suck at these games, so therefore I don't play them very much, but yeah, this looks very interesting. Like, this is something that I could totally play with, like, the nephew or something.
One thing that I think is interesting about it, I'm kind of surprised they went this way, is they have, instead of darts, you're shooting energy bolts or something. And I was a little bit surprised they went that way, because how sensitive things are right now, with weapons and that kind of stuff. I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't keep that darts, the rubber suction cup darts, to kind of placate that a little bit.
Yeah. I can see that. Or like something like with Splatoon, where you're just covering each other in paint or something. But yeah, what does it say? October of this year. That's super cool. Like, that's one I might actually play for like a weekend just to try it out.
And that's probably going to be the thing, unless it's better than, because I think it's going to be cool, but I suspect that it's not going to be earth shattering. So it may be very busy for a week, and then we'll see what happens.
All right, so one super cool thing, I'm actually very excited about this, and I don't know how, up to date you are with like AI and machine learning and things like that, but this is a really cool piece of technology where Digital Foundry released a video, and he talks about a lot more in depth than what we're about to now, so definitely go watch that. But yeah, so they used AI to remaster the trailer from Metal Gear Solid 2, which is another huge game series I love. I love stuff with like big, deep storylines and complicated characters. But yeah, so essentially they took, let me see if I can find for the video viewers. So basically, it was like the intro boat scene. They kind of show some comparisons, the original trailer and then the new trailer. And again, you can only make old content so remastered without like physically recreating it. You can't take Final Fantasy VII on the PS1 and turn it into the remake with something like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, let me see here. So, essentially what you're doing, you're taking the textures, you're bringing them up to 4K, and I don't know if it's downsampling them again, but the image is much, much sharper, and the anti-aliasing seems a little lacking. Like, you have a lot of, like, jaggies on, like, some of the cables and power lines and stuff that are on the boat. But overall, the game looks phenomenal. Like, this does not look like a PS2 era game. I don't know if you've ever plugged your PS2 into like a new TV, but it kind of looks like crap without some sort of upscaler. And this, like, I think it looks better than using my RetroTink 5X and putting it on my TV. Everything just looks much, much clearer. So, yeah, definitely go check out the video. They go over stuff, like I said, just way more in depth. But this is really cool because what other games can you take from 240 or 480p and upscale to 4K? And, like, I feel like it's a darn good time to be a gamer because stuff like this is only going to make faster and faster turnarounds on remasters. So.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because the only trailer I remember for Metal Gear Solid was the original. They had the guy. It was the guy dressed up in the special ops suit, jumping into like a wading pool and pretending to swim or something. That is all I remember from the original trailers. But I mean, it's really cool. And you said they did this with like AI. Machine learning, so it's going. I'm assuming it's going in and it's taking the textures and changing them around and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if they're taking it, making it 4K and then shrinking it back down to 1080, because that, like, I'll do YouTube videos like that. You shoot in 4K, it gives you better edit space and you can zoom and do stuff better. Oh, here we go. It's showing some of the comparisons now.
Yeah.
And then when you export it to 1080p, it actually looks a lot sharper, which is, I'm pretty sure, what they're doing here. Just because, like, some of those edges are way, way too clean to just, like, take it and, like, stretch it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, we talked about that last week. You could see that so much in that, when we were comparing the Super Mario, was it Super Mario World, I think? Or,
yeah.
I get confused with all the Super Marios, but how it looks when they did the Pixel Perfect remake compared to stretching it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mario turns into a chonky boy when you just take him and stretch him.
Nothing wrong with that.
hey, nothing. We don't body shame around these parts.
Listen, when Mario jumps on a Goomba's head, he wants to have as much weight as possible behind it. He should actually, when you're playing it stretched, it should actually give him more. Anything that would have taken, 2 hits should now take 1.
You're just like one-shotting the bosses.
Exactly. I mean, if you're bigger than Koopa,
right?
You win.
Oh, me. All right. Why don't you speaking of Nintendo, tell us a little bit about what's going on to a ROM site here.
So there was a big thing with a site. I'm trying to look up the name here real quick. It was ROM Universe. Basically, Nintendo sued ROM Universe. They got $2.1 million out of the deal. And now they're going a little bit further, well, a lot further. And the owners of the site are not allowed to have any of the Nintendo ROMs on their site. They're not allowed to have the Nintendo logo on the site. They're not allowed to personally play any Nintendo ROM games. They're basically telling them that they have to destroy all of the ROM content on their website, or they could be brought up for charges of perjury. Now, I can see to a degree where Nintendo's coming from. And I do have to say, from a content creator standpoint, Nintendo is not as bad as they could be. If you want to, for instance, stream some Nintendo games and stuff like that, they have a process where you can go and you submit the video to them, and then they'll allow that to be streamed and stuff. But this is kind of a shame for people who like to play games that aren't available on. Obviously Nintendo doesn't have their full collection of NES games on the Switch. So, this is just an unfortunate case where those people are just not going to be able to play the original games. And so I kind of feel like Nintendo should try and find some middle ground here.
Yeah. And like you hear of, fans making fan-made versions of games and then getting employed by, the production company and stuff. I feel like Nintendo has such a large fan base in the retro scene that they could talk to some of these people and be like, hey, look, how can you help us set up like a back end, repository of, all these ROMs and fan translations and stuff like that. Again, owning an emulator is perfectly legal. It's the ROM that makes it illegal.
Right.
And this is just one of those like hot topic debates where like I know people that get heated about emulation. Yeah, that's pretty crazy that they like sued the ever living crap out of them. And then it's
honestly,
like,
I can't blame them to a certain degree, because if somebody can go on there, for instance, one of the perks for me personally to buy a Switch when I first bought it was that I could play the Legend of Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda on the Switch. And I loved that concept. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why I bought it. So I can see why offering a ROM could possibly hurt that business if I could go somewhere else and get it and play it on a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
At the same time, if it's a game that you don't have available to you, it's, let them have it.
Yeah.
Until you're ready to put that out on the Switch or Nintendo Arcade or something like that, let them have it on there. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's also bringing the site a lot of money that Nintendo feels like they can somehow get access to, I guess.
Yeah, and like one big point there is the Switch was the first console to offer Earthbound as a what do they call it, virtual console like item. Before that, you couldn't have a legitimate virtual copy of Earthbound. The only other way you'd be able to play it is if you bought the Super Nintendo, paid like $400 for Earthbound, and then you would be able to play the game and not have to worry about like any kind of like moral or legal stuff. So yeah, like Nintendo does have the right to say like, no, you can't put our like, that's plagiarism, that's copyright infringement. Like,
absolutely, and they should.
Yeah.
I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that Nintendo shouldn't have the right to do it.
Yeah.
Purely talking about it from the point of view of working with the community instead of against it.
Exactly, yeah. Yep. All right, so still on Nintendo, they seem to be a hot topic on our little thing here.
It's Nintendo Week.
I know, right? So after 20 years of attempts, an impossible GoldenEye trick was done by an actual person, not a task bot or anything. And like people swore that this trick was, you couldn't humanly do it. So it takes place in the Aztec level, which is the what's that from? Moonraker, I believe, the Bond film. And
I love James Bond and I love this game, but I could not tell you. So
yeah,
we're gonna go with that.
yeah, we're gonna say official stamp Moonraker. Ah, look at that! Based on the film Moonraker. Woo!
There you go.
But
Saved by the article.
yeah, so you're running through these like Aztec ruins and trying to get on the spaceship to escape and all this stuff. And on any difficulty, this is a hard freaking level. Like, I remember playing this level as a kid and like being so frustrated. But at one point you're confronted by turrets, and what was deemed impossible was not being hit 5 times by these turrets, because they do so much damage. It only takes 5 hits and you're dead. And if you're ever speedrunning, dying is a very bad thing. So people have been trying to do this for years, and like before you had to go all the way around through a different air duct to grab a set of body armor so you could take a couple more hits before you'd be able to finish the level. Well, somebody figured out you can get hit 4 times instead of 5, you live, and it shaves like crazy time off of your in-game time. So congrats to Carl. What is it? Is that actually who did it? I see Carl Jobst. Yeah, so congrats to whoever found the strat. This is going to be huge, and I think we're going to end up seeing a lot of world record turnover on the speedrun forums and stuff. So
Maybe, unless everybody else still can't do it.
Oh no, you like as competitive as speedrunners are.
Absolutely.
Like, I guarantee you, every GoldenEye runner is just like doing this level over and over and over and over.
You know, that's what I love about, or one of the things that I love about speedrunning. You know, in the gaming world, my 2 absolute favorite aspects of gaming are speedrunning and esports.
Mm-hmm.
Watching them, not playing them.
Yeah.
It's the persistence that these guys put in there, and you know, somebody will come up with a trick where, you know, just as a whole, the community was like, this trick's impossible, and then somebody comes in and beats it, and then all of a sudden it's like the easiest trick, or you know, or they find a way around it or something like that. The persistence that they put into beating the games is amazing. And if you have a game that you like to watch speedrun, you know, really get into it and watch several speedrunners, and you really get the whole story of how it works. And it's that I just love speedrunning so much.
Yeah, like,
I can't do it, but I love it.
Yeah, so far I can only really do Super Mario World and be okay at it. But there for a while I was trying to get into Super Metroid, so like I was watching Oats and Goats, Zoast, there's another one I can't remember. But yeah, like you said, check out like multiple speedrunners, and it's like the attention to detail that they go into with these runs is just wild. Like, how can you remember so many steps? Like, sometimes I forget to jump in Mario, and that's a 14-minute run. Like, oh, man.
Yeah, I like my personal favorite is the Ocarina of Time speedruns.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys going at it for 4 hours, and it's like, and actually I really like, now this is, you have to be a little bit of a marathonist, but I really like Breath of the Wild as well.
Mm-hmm.
Watching them 100% it. It's, I think they're down to like 25 hours now for a run.
Man, I couldn't imagine like taking the time to do that, like just consecutive 25 hours. Like, man, you'd have to prep for like a week to do one run.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these guys, I was watching a guy, and I can't remember, Terra Tactical, I think his name was. He was, I want to say the first one that set a record in it, or second one. I think he was, somebody else set it, and I think he was trying to beat it at the time. And at that point, it was 36 hours, I think, for a run. And you know, I watched him play that game, you know, 8 hours a day for months before he tried his record run at it. And I mean, they do put in there, you know, he was able to take, you know, a certain amount of time for for sleep because they don't want anybody just keeling over and having a heart attack. But still, to go in and play 16 hours of a game, take a nap, and come back in and play 16 more, no way I could do it. Well, that's not completely true, but to do it over and over again, we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all had that one good weekend where it's like you have a long weekend from school, but
decide to skip work.
Yeah. Oof.
I'd like to say I just only had one.
Yeah. Yeah. What did we talk about last week? Video game addiction.
It's real. It's real.
Oh, me. But yeah. So, what is our main topic this week?
Well, this week we're going to be talking about the future of gaming. 38 years ago, the Nintendo was released, and here we are today with things like PS5s, the Xbox Series X. Can we use that and kind of look ahead, and see what's going to happen in the next 38 years? Is gaming even going to be a thing in 38 years?
Yeah, so I looked that up and I was mind blown that it was 38 years ago. I was like, get out, no way. The NES is only like a 20-year-old console.
Right. I wish.
But yeah, I feel like that's a really long question because there's so many different aspects that tie into the future of anything. And talking about gaming specifically, 38 years, we went from 8-bit to 16-bit to 32-bit, 64-bit, all that stuff as far as, color palettes and things like that. N64, first console with an analog stick. That seems stupid now, but then that was and they didn't know how to program a game to use it.
Right.
But yeah, so where was I going with this? I had something like a bug fly across, and my mind's just like, "Oh, squirrel."
Well, while you're thinking about that, what is it a really, looking back, what was a really, kind of big step where you looked at gaming differently? And I know I didn't script this to you, so you're going to have to forgive me for jumping off track, but I just thought about it, thinking back to, and what brought this up is when I think back to the PlayStation and everything switched to CD. I mean, we had the Sega CD before, but Hughes actually played it, right? When the PlayStation came out and CDs became kind of commonplace, that was kind of a big moment in my mind where I was like, wow, gaming's getting really high tech. The same with, like you said, with the N64 controller, with the joysticks, going away from the buttons and thinking, man, why didn't they do this before?
Okay. Oh man, I feel like there's so many points. So my first probably whoa moment was probably seeing Mario in 3D on the N64. That was a pretty crazy moment because I had only experienced 2D Mario before that, and I grew up, my main console was Super Nintendo. And besides Star Fox, there really wasn't any 3D games. But yeah, firing up Mario 64 and just being like, whoa, there's a whole new way to play this. So yeah, that's probably the first aha moment. And then after that is probably PS2. Because I remember playing racing games and just being like, whoa, this looks just like the real life car.
Yeah,
and
Gran Turismo.
Yeah, Gran Turismo.
I remember it well, just blown away. not to, I don't mean to interrupt, but I remember looking back and we had games like, and I can't even remember the name of it, but F1 Racer, I think, for Sega.
Yeah.
Where you're basically a stationary car and the map moves around you. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden now we're moving into Gran Turismo and what that has to offer. It was just mind blowing.
Yeah, and like some really cool tech I didn't experience until like a year and a half ago was virtual racing on the Sega 32X. And you said no one played the Sega CD. No one played the Sega 32X. And it was actually really, really cool. Just the amount, like how well those 3D games ran on basically a chip thrown on top of the Genesis. Like I think it was like 1 or 2 extra like processing units is basically all the 32X was.
And they weren't like today's processing units either. They were 30 years ago processing units.
Yeah. Yeah, and K. Willery in chat said comparison 60 years ago, would you say board gaming would be dead by now? Yeah, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
If anything,
or miniature wargaming is another one,
Yeah, and I think board gaming's probably on a boom right now. Because I know like tons of our friends, like when we get together, we play board games. Like, break out the poetry for Neanderthals and stuff like that. But
would board gaming, do you think, be bigger if not the advent of video games? And video games, at the very least, could you say that it maybe stalled board gaming out and kind of brought it down a lot? Or, maybe if they would have kept going at the speed they were going, would they have used up the concepts? And, a lot of those games that we have now got released back then, and, who knows?
Yeah. I think if anything, it probably influenced it. I got someone else saying they played a 32X with the Star Wars arcade, I think. Yeah, there's a couple people. I only know like one person who actually at the time had a 32X. Like now it's a little more common, like collectors and stuff like that. But
I don't think I knew anybody who had a Sega. Still to this day, I don't think I knew anybody who originally had a Sega CD. Now, I do have a friend who has that Philips gaming console. That thing is atrocious. But I do know somebody who has that, but not the Sega CD.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes to speak for like evolution of gaming in general. Was like you bought a console, and then if you wanted to do something else cool with it, you had to buy the extra attachment. And then the extra attachment. And like, so then you end up with like Sega CD, Genesis, 32X, like Game Genie, Sonic and Knuckles. And now you've got the Tower of Power. Like, whereas now it seems like, developers are able to push the hardware more and more and more. And, I mean, like some of the first gen, like when PS2 first came out, so like, the end of the life cycle, it was so wildly more advanced. Like if you look at like Final Fantasy X compared to 11 or 12. No, 11 was online, I think.
So yeah, 11 was the online.
And look at Final Fantasy 12. It was like, how is this console able to do these graphics? Because that's insane. I guess you could chalk it up to, what is it? Not Moore's. Moore's Law is what can go wrong will go wrong. Or is that Murphy's Law?
That's Murphy's Law.
Yeah, I think Moore's Law is like 2 times the... Whatever. Science.
You carry the 3.
Yeah. 1 and 1 is 11. But, yeah, so, and again, you could probably chalk that up to, like, hardware is more powerful when it's in development. Like, this is 3 or 4 years before it's actually released that it's being developed for. And then when it releases, like, then you have that growth. So it's almost like leapfrogging. But I do want to ask the question.
Just to set the record straight, Moore's law is that the number of transistors on a microchip doubles every 2 years.
I knew it had something with doubling. Follow me for more science.
Thank you to Google. Shout outs.
Yeah, shout out to Google. The friend who always comes through with the answer when you have no idea what you're talking about.
Exactly.
But yeah, and that does raise a good point. Like I feel like the past generation of consoles, so like I'm talking PS4 into PS5, Xbox Series X into Xbox, or Xbone X into Series X, because they could not make that more confusing. I'm not seeing like a massive difference. It's not like going from NES to Super Nintendo. Like that 16-bit or 8-bit difference made a world of difference in the design with the colors and stuff. So are we starting to hit a point where like the hardware is advancing faster than we can develop for?
Mm-hmm. And with that, I mean, looking at 4K, for instance, and I honestly just don't know the answer to that. We went to 4K and people were like, oh, your eyes can only see, so finite a detail. And they're like, oh, so 4K doesn't look much different than 1080p. Well, I got a 4K TV and I was like, wow, what was I missing? Because it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And now we're going into 8K and they're saying the same thing, But are we going to get to a point where it's like, okay, well, that's it.
Yeah.
This looks like real life. This would not look any real if the guy was sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
So, where is the limit? And then you go into, is there a future in 3D or in virtual reality? And, how realistic is that going to get and stuff like that?
Yeah. So that's actually really funny. Going from like 1080p to 4K and everyone's like, oh, the eye can't see over 24 frames at 720p. And I'm like, first of all, I could tell a huge difference between 720 and 1080.
I'll be honest, I bought it. I was like, oh, this must be a fact because the internet said it. And I bought it. And so I didn't get a 4K TV until recently. And that's when I realized how much of a schmuck I had been.
Yeah, and the human eye is so much more perceptible to motion than it is like actual screen resolution. So if you ever get the chance to play on like a really good like 240 or 100 even 120 hertz monitor and have like a solid like non-variable frame rate where it's just a nice line, it's not trying to like go up and smack my microphone, go up and down, you will be blown away with how much better the gameplay is. Like my laptop has a 240 hertz display on it, and it like makes me sick to play Borderlands 3 at 60 hertz now. Like it is bad for the soul. And I think that that's generally how it goes. It's like we make a leap and then we're like, oh wait, but we didn't quite perfect the thing we had. And then we'll make a leap. Like when 4K came out, it was pointless. Mm-hmm. Like no computer could run 4K. And again, this is at the time of like the GTX 600 series of graphics cards. And it's like, even if you had a Titan, like it would barely run like 45 to 50 frames per second in like PC games. And so like it was just dumb to have a 4K display. So people went back, and that's when they found like, oh, but 120 hertz though, like that's where it's at. So I think like we're jumping to 8K, and while I've seen an 8K display and it does look crispy, like super crispy, and stuff like HDR just makes the lighting look so good in content. I think that we're going to see like a jump back to 120 hertz at 4K. And then we're going to have to come up with the hardware to try to run that monstrosity. Right. But as far as VR, I think it kind of plays into that as well. Like, if you play VR at 60 frames, you're going to be puking in a bucket. like I think they found like the sweet spot is, I want to say like 90 frames per second. And that seems to keep people from getting motion sick. But yeah, if it like one eye drops a little bit lower in frame rate than the other, it's like you're super disoriented. And but yeah, I think virtual reality will play into a huge factor of like how we look at gaming in the next 38 years. I don't think it'll be like the like Xbox 24 is going to be a purely virtual reality console. Just because, go away, Adobe. Just because I think people like the aspect of just like chilling on their couch staring at a screen. Not a lot of people enjoy VR right now. Maybe it's because it's not perfect, but like I, for one, it still seems kind of gimmicky. But
yeah, I think a lot of that too is we touched on a little bit last week, and I'm mostly of the opinion of what you just said. I feel like it's a little bit gimmicky, but also like there's no good games.
Yeah.
No big titles are coming out. I'm not looking forward to Starfall or Starfield or whatever that game's called. I'm not looking forward to that on the VR. Mm-hmm. Just it's not coming. So why? Yeah. But so I think we have that. But kind of, I am derailing right now. Looking forward, in the next 38 years, what are we going to be seeing? Do you think things like handhelds, like the Switch, mobile gaming, stuff like that? Do you think that that's kind of the next step as we become more technologically advanced? And let's face it, like some of the cell phone games that we have, or I should say mobile games, showing my age, some of the mobile games that are coming out now, and some of the Switch titles and stuff like that, as they progress and they're able to make technology smaller, are we going to see a lot more handheld gaming coming out from different companies? And do you think that we'll ever get to a point where, you go out and you're just going to buy a handheld game and forget about sitting on your couch and being forced to watch it on the television?
Well, I feel like the Switch was a really good, like, testing waters for that theory, because it could be both. Granted, they came out with Switch Lite, which sucks, and no one should ever buy it. But unless you're buying it for a child, that's the only reason you should buy a Switch Lite.
Yeah.
But
even then.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
what, you hate your kids?
Wait, did you not find a paddle? You got to have a Switch Lite. But yeah, I feel like the Switch was the testing waters for that, and the vast majority of people I know with the Switch, that thing never leaves the dock. Ever.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
I've never put mine in the dock. Well,
really?
That's not true. I did to stream when I first got my Switch 3 years ago. I was streaming some Switch games. Other than that, never.
Huh.
Nor would I want to.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes from the really crappy Joy-Cons. Those things wear out so fast. Like, when I was working at the game store, it was like the hottest thing that we could keep on the shelf were Joy-Cons. Either their child broke it or it got drift.
Drift is easy to fix, by the way.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, they make cleaners. You spray it down in there. Be careful it doesn't touch your power button or it just falls off. But it works really well. And
apparently there's a trick where you could put a piece of cardboard and it just applies an extra little bit of pressure between the casing and the circuit. And supposedly that's like the most permanent fix they found. And I'm like, That sounds terrifying. Like I'm gonna be holding like a Note 7 or whatever cell phone it was that would just grenade. But yeah, so I don't think handheld will be like the future of gaming. I think it'll still be present. Because like there's always that gamer that's like, I don't like mobile games because most of them are pay to win. And they enjoy just taking their consoles on the go. Like if Nintendo came out with like a new Game Boy, I'd probably buy it. Just because like I love my Game Boy Advance, I love my Game Boy Color. Do I play them all the time? No. But I think handhelds will definitely like stay in the product line that's offered. I'd love to see a successor to the PS Vita. Like the Vita was a phenomenal console and it had so many good games. But like I don't know if that was a marketing thing or if people were burned by the PSP. Which by the way, I was one of those kids where like I begged for a PSP and then I got it and hated it. But yeah, like the PS Vita, like that would be awesome. And especially where they were experimenting with PS3 where you could take like some games to go.
I think there's going to be something to be said for things like the Stream Dock or Steam Dock.
Yeah,
with the way the emphasis that we're seeing right now with streaming content, that could be a big deal. Now, I think is going to be a surprisingly big impact on that. Is it's hard to get internet on a plane, and I think a lot of people who like handheld gaming like it because they use it on a plane. And I know that sounds silly, but I knew a lot of people when I was traveling a lot and stuff like that they bought a Switch because they were they traveled a lot and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, I know quite a few people that bought the Game Boy Micro like years later for that exact reason. Like it was small, it was portable, you could just throw it in your pocket and go about your day. Which I don't know how people played on those. That's too small.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. But even pretend to try that.
Yeah,
it's like those Raspberry Pis they put in a Altoid container.
Yeah,
which is awesome, but I would never want one.
Ew. Like the closest thing I've got is a Mr. FPGA, which, by the way, I could just like gush about that entire project. I love it. And truth be told, since I bought it, I might have turned my Super Nintendo on like 3 times. But yeah, like I think everybody's got that craving for like that really powerful hand. They like the idea of portability.
So one other thing I wanted to bring into this looking forward is where do you think we're going to go gaming wise ethically going forward? Because the market does have, the people do have an effect. Even EA has cut back a little bit on some of their microtransactions and loot crates in response to the market. But where do you think we're going to end up? With things like loot crates, with microtransactions, play to win games, gotcha games, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think like pay to win and gotcha games, they're not going anywhere. I think we'll probably end up seeing a lot more of that. As far as like how in your face they are about it, I think that'll change. Like everybody's caught on the microtransactions now. Besides like maybe my mother. But yeah, so as far as ethnics, I think microtransactions, that's going to be something that's cracked down a lot more. But I don't think it's going to go away. It seems like that's been kind of the development process, is like DLC oriented. So you buy the game, you play the game, you enjoyed the game. Oh, but here's a little bit more content. Whereas before, like every 2 to 3-ish years, you might get another game in the franchise. Now they're just like separating it into chapters. Telltale actually did a phenomenal job with that. I really enjoyed Telltale games. I would just wait until all the chapters were available and then bought it that way. But I could see where like selling, it's almost like the cheap romance novels you see in the store. It's
Right.
like, here's my $6 fix. And when the next $6 fix comes out, I'll get that. Or my attention might be on something totally different. So now I'm not out $60, I'm out 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Buying a $30 game and then a $30 DLC and another $20 DLC, that's just crazy to me. Unless it's a lot of content. But I think that's how it's going to kind of be. Like, everybody's going to expect buying a game like multiple times through the process of like DLC.
Well, I mean, and it's expensive to make a game too. To a certain degree, and I'm probably a lot more accepting of this than you probably are, but to a certain degree, like, I get it. If you're going to come out with DLC, you have to have programmers, you have to have, if it's online based, you have to have the servers to support it and all that kind of stuff. Like, if you have a game a really good example is, if you have a game like, what I can't think of the name of, Destiny, now Destiny, I'm not saying that I agree with all of their practices or don't. I've honestly not played it much. I'm just using it as an example. Destiny, if you're going to play that game, you're playing it on public servers that somebody has to support. They have to continue to develop the game. They have to continue to pay the bills to keep the, servers up and going, all that kind of stuff. Like, if you pay $60 for that game and then, or nothing, and, you play it for 2 years, like, somebody's got to pay for that stuff. Where are they going to get the money to continue to support it? So in cases like that, there does have to be some sort of a microtransaction. There's just no way around that. Or a monthly fee, and we saw with like WoW and stuff like that, people, when that first came out and we started to see a lot of those subscription-based games, everybody was up in arms, I never pay a subscription to play a game. And now that we're moving to the microtransaction and the free-to-play market, everybody's like, why can't you just charge me $15 a month? Not everybody, but a lot of people, myself included, why can't I just pay $15 a month? I don't have to worry about paying all of these piddly little charges, and I have full access to the game. So if it's a game that's being continued to be supported, to be developed, has multiplayer features, they have to make money somehow. They're not in the money of making people laugh. They're in the business of making people laugh. They're or have fun. They're in the business of making money, anyways.
Yeah. And rule number one of business is like you got to make your means. Like, good intentions don't put beans on the table. But yeah, and I agree. Like, especially MMORPGs, like that's so much maintenance and upkeep. And like, I can totally get down with paying a monthly subscription for something like WoW or FF14, something like that, because a lot of work goes on in the back end in order to keep those things up and going. If you want a good example of a poorly maintained, like, massive multiplayer online thing, look at like old school RuneScape, man.
Hey, tread carefully, my friend.
It was like, no, that was a phenomenal game, but like right there towards the tail end, it's like you'd get on and like there were hackers and cheats and just like it was like, are y'all not doing anything anymore? Like, everybody's cheating.
Oh my word. And the way that they dealt with that initially was the worst single. They would make it so that you would just get ripped out of the game into a mini game that you wanted to have nothing to do with. And so you're grinding from level 1 to level 99, which takes like 2 months of straight play, and every 20 minutes you're getting ripped out of the game and sucked into this mini game that has nothing to do with anything. That was the worst kind of anti-botting I've ever seen.
Yeah. Rip RuneScape. I haven't played the new one, but I'm just like,
it's fun. I like RuneScape. I always have. I played since, I forget what the original RuneScape was, but I played since then. Varric was the only town.
The OG.
Yes.
But yeah, and I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see a lot of the same as the years go on. It's like everything's going digital, everything's going DLC. So I think unless you're buying something like or playing something like a gacha game or like a puzzle game, like something mobile like Candy Crush, better strap on in and get used to what's going on, because I don't see that going anywhere.
No, I do have to say, my wife is, I want to say, on level 800 plus on Gardenscapes, and she has probably spent like $7.
Yeah.
And it's pure persistence, and I have no idea how or why she got that far.
It's like,
but I did want to point out though that Kay Worley actually brought up a good point in the chat, that sports games would be an excellent place to do kind of the DLC, where you can buy, NFL 2021, and then the next year pay a little bit more and kind of upgrade that to 22.
Yeah.
I've always thought that the sports game thing was just really stupid. You buy a game and it's good for 1 year.
Granted, me and my buddy just about like twice a month will play NBA Jam. And like half of those guys are retired, if not dead.
That was not the point of NBA Jam.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a fantastic idea. Because basically you're just updating rosters at that point. So it's like now you had the 2022 team pack.
Yeah, exactly.
And that,
which is surprisingly the same as the 2021 team pack.
Yeah. Oh, me.
I mean, are they still adding? Because honestly, I haven't played since the last sports game I played, I think, was Madden 2007. Are they still adding new features every year? Because you think you would run out of features where it's more complicated to play the game than it is to actually play football.
I don't know what all goes on into designing the games, but man, sports games are alive and well. Like, that was probably one of the majority of titles we sold at the game store. Like,
oh, I believe it.
I mean, we had almost like floor to ceiling NES games, Super Nintendo, all that stuff, and like people would come in and be like, "Hey, man, you got FIFA 2021, or you got NFL 2021, Madden, whatever it's called," and it's just like, how are you playing this?
It floors me that in a country that likes soccer so little, and I'm a big soccer fan. I love soccer, like World Cup and stuff. I'm all about it. But in a country that hates soccer with such a passion, how in the world is FIFA like one of the biggest games?
I don't get it. I'm not a sports game. If you play sports games, do not think I am ragging on you. Like, more, you play what you want to play. That's the whole name of the game right there. But man, I just it's like picking up. And what's crazy is like some of them are going for stupid money now. Like what was it? NCAA 2014, because that was the year they got in all that trouble for basically taking advantage of all the student athletes, and they
I agree.
Yeah, like if they can lose their entire scholarship for taking a free lunch from somebody, like why do you get to exploit them on a video game?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think those games are going for like $140. And I'm just like, how? It's not like I can't even imagine it'd be that good. But whatever.
The sports gaming community, or the sports gaming phenomenon, should have stopped at Madden 2007, where you could win the entire game by doing the fake punt over and over again. That's all you needed. That was my kind of sports game, because I could never lose.
Dude, I think I stopped playing football games after like NFL Blitz on the N64. But
well, that was a good game. That NBA Jam, like that's what a sports game should be. Sports gaming is legit. If somebody's a sports gamer, have at it. I'm all about you playing your sports game. It's not my thing though.
I guess I should clarify. I like the arcadey sports games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so and that kind of brings up a thing of like the whole emulation scene. So like NCAA 2014 is $140. If that's like your favorite sports game, maybe somebody would be willing to fork that out for it, but a lot of people will probably try to find like other means. And quite honestly, like a lot of first party people are starting to get into emulation. Nintendo, Xbox, I think PS5 does PS3 through emulation. Or one of them, no, Xbox will do original Xbox games. But I think it basically is like the PS3, like the first gen, where it pulls the ISO off the disc and then plays it through an emulator. It's not actual like hardware. Like there's not OG Xbox hardware in the Series X or anything. But yeah, a lot of first party people are getting down with emulation. And that's a whole nother can of worms into the future of things, because eventually discs are gonna die. Parts are probably gonna outlive discs, but eventually, like, you can only insert and undo so many times before you wear the pins out or something like that. So how do you feel emulation will affect the future of gaming?
First of all, nobody is a bigger proponent of killing discs than I am. I cannot stand them. I don't know why. I kind of do, but for the most part, I don't know why there's so much angst about like going away from that to just having everything digital media. And I mean, if you're a PC gamer, you're already there, because you're going to buy everything you get off of Steam or what's the other one? Why can't I think of the name of? What's the other big one?
There's Origin, there's Epic Games, there's
Epic. Yes, Epic. So, you're getting your stuff right now off of Steam or Epic or Origin. And Blizzard, I guess, has their own thing, but it's only for Blizzard games, and Destiny for whatever reason. Anyways, yeah, so I'm all about getting off of CDs. I just don't get it. And I don't have to. Maybe other people like it, and that's cool for them. But with that being said, I would love to see more emulation for the older games supported by, I absolutely love the Switch's emulation for the Nintendo and or for the NES and the Super Nintendo. I love to go on there and play some of those old games. And I would frankly love to see that for, Xbox, on my Xbox Series X, or on the PS5. I would love to go back and play Harvest Moon for the PlayStation, the PlayStation version of Harvest Moon. I would love to go back and play that on my Xbox, or on my PlayStation 5. I get them all confused.
Yeah, and so don't get me wrong, like I have a massive collection, well, massive to me, that's probably puny to some people, but I have a large collection of physical media for these old school consoles and games. But
that I get.
Yeah.
There's a collection value. There's games that I have that I will never get rid of the disc. Don't even have the system, but it's just because I value the collection of it.
Yeah, and like I am all about preservation. I I'm like trying to nab every CRT I can find, and if it's broke, I try to fix it. Because there's only certain stuff you can enjoy on the CRT. You can only play Super Scope on the CRT. Sure, you can hook up a Raspberry Pi and like use a mouse or even a Wii remote and do Super Scope, but like you're not holding the freaking bazooka. But
No, will never happen with me.
But yeah, so I'm all about the preservation of stuff. So I have a Mister, and it has everything from the Atari 2600 plumb up to like Sega CD 30, or not 32X yet. But they are working on a Sega Saturn core and stuff like that. I use that to play on so I don't wear out my consoles. Just because like especially like tubes and stuff, like they don't make tubes anymore. You can throw capacitors in a CRT or transistors and all that stuff and get them working again, but like once the tube's done, it's done. And same thing with like these old games and stuff. It's like I feel like emulation is super important because discs aren't gonna last forever. I don't know if you've ever seen disc rot before, but you'll like hold up a disc to light and you can see straight through it. It's like that data layer is just completely gone. Granted, the only discs I really see that on are Sega CD, and I think that's just because they used like cheap discs back in the day, and CD was
probably
like
because nobody bought it; they couldn't afford it.
yeah. Well, plus too, like CD was like new media. Like, I mean, you had like music CDs and stuff, but when you're trying to sell like 100,000 copies of a game or something, or 1,000,000 copies, like you're gonna save a penny where you can. And yeah, I think they just use like cheap made discs and they're literally rotting and dying, and you won't be able to play that game anymore. And the bad thing about Sega CD games is they are dumb expensive. Like KO and the Flying Fortress, which is actually a really fun like shoot 'em up, that game's like $2,500 now.
Jeez.
And it's like, of course, like the average consumer's not gonna like go out and like, oh man, my $2,500 game died. I guess I better go buy another one. Like, no, they're gonna turn to emulation, and it's like I feel like if you can buy $175 FPGA and have a perfect like to the T accurate core of the original console, like you're emulating the hardware, not the software. Why can't these first party systems do it? Like, why can't the Switch have an FPGA in it, and when you dock it, it basically unlocks it, and now you can play like you're actually playing on an NES, and you won't have any audio lag. I don't know if I can't play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on Raspberry Pi. It is not doable.
I couldn't play it on the NES.
Like, it's such a hard timing game anyway, but like any input lag you add is just gonna like kill it. Yeah. Granted, any flat screen TV and game mode's probably gonna add like a frame of lag, which is basically nothing. You can still be competitive with that. Right. But it's like, why can't, you see what's happening in the open source market, like why can't we start implementing this into what's going
Obviously,
on today?
there's a market, going back to Nintendo, like shutting down the ROMs. Fine, shut them down. I understand you have that right, but give them to me then elsewise.
Exactly.
Like, don't just cut me off from these games that I love so much and then I can't play without spending a small fortune. Like, just give me another way in.
Yeah. Like, no one wants to go out and buy Little Samson for $2,000 on the NES. It's like...
Absolutely.
Like, people rip that crap and play the ROM all the time.
Right.
But, yeah. So...
And I'd be willing to pay for it again.
Yeah.
If Nintendo wanted to, charge me for, I don't know, Zelda 2, which I would never pay for. if I had to, but you get the point. If they wanted to charge me for a game that I played and I loved before, and now I own the ROM for it, fine, do it. But if you're not going to offer this to us, then don't go out. Shut down the guy who is offering it, just so that you can say you did it.
Yeah, and like a lot of speedrunners, they play Japanese versions of the game because the dialogue is so much faster. You can put so many more Japanese words on the same screen than English words. So a lot of times people emulate the Japanese versions of the game for speedrunning. Otherwise, they have to, for instance, you buy a Super or you go to speedrun Super Metroid in Japanese. You would have to buy a Super Famicom or mod your Super Nintendo, which is super easy. And all this extra stuff to be able to actually play the Japanese game. Or you could just buy a $30, $40 Raspberry Pi, throw an emulator on it, and play the ROM and be up and running in like 30 minutes.
Yep.
But yeah, and I don't know if you can do that on the Switch Virtual Console. I don't know if you could play Japanese versions of the game. I think
not that I'm aware of. You might be able to buy like a Japanese Switch. I don't.
Yeah,
that could be a thing. I don't know. But
and then
who's going to do that?
Yeah, then you run into the issue of like having to run a VPN to connect to Japanese Nintendo servers to down, and it's just like if these are so easily accessible, like tell me why you can't charge $5-10 a month to, and I think Switch does something kind of like this. It's Nintendo something or another.
It's the Nintendo Arcade, and or I think it's called the Arcade. But you get, if you pay for Switch's version of Xbox, or the Xbox Gold, you get access to all of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo games that they have on there.
Yeah,
but they don't have them all.
Not many.
Right.
And it's like, why can't you have these games on there? If all you're doing is playing a ROM, like the vast majority of people, they don't care if it has an FPGA on it and it's like hardware accurate and blah blah blah. They just want to play Legend of Zelda. They want to play, Super Mario 3. Like, why can't you have all of the games on there?
Plus, I can tell Nintendo where they can get $2.1 million to spearhead the project.
Exactly.
Because they just took it from the ROM company, or from the ROM website.
Yeah, and it's like, I know that they have copies of these ROMs. If not, they could probably find them on the internet.
Right.
and like...
Go to whatever the ROM site, I can't remember the name of it, but go to them and take it.
And they're like, and like I said before, there's so many Super Famicom games. I have no idea what the story's about. Like, I don't read Japanese, but they are some of the most fun games I've ever played. And like, why can't you just have like your standard drop down menu where it's like region, you have NTSCU, NTSCJ, PAL, and then your console of choice, and then maybe like a genre like role playing or arcade, whatever. It's like I feel like that would be so easy, and if they could implement this like in consoles upcoming, like, man, that'd be awesome. I'd be all over it. But yeah.
Well,
I knew that was going to be a long-winded discussion on my part. Sorry if I rambled too long.
Well, I mean, it's a good subject. I think a lot of people care about it. I know I do. Even though I don't even care for the old stuff really that much, I still care about it. So,
yeah. And like, just all the cool bugs with like the different versions of the game. Like, if you have the 1.2 cart, it has this bug. But if you have the 1.4, they like work. I don't know. I'm like, why can't we preserve like all the versions? Just give me like
absolutely
400 million like mile long list. But yeah, so I don't know. Future of gaming, I think we are definitely in for a wild ride. There's a lot of cool tech, a lot of neat stuff that's come out and coming out, and I don't know. Hopefully, we'll be able to play games way into the future. Be like,
I think we will. I don't think gaming. Yeah, I know gaming isn't going anywhere. It's the face may change, the tactics might change, the ethics may change, but gaming is going to be here for a very long time. I'm extremely confident of that.
oh yeah, absolutely. It's so like ingrained in the culture now. like,
And it's growing. I mean,
yeah,
more people are gaming now than ever. More people are watching esports than ever. More people are speed running than ever. So all aspects are growing.
yeah. Like my 4-year-old nephew and my 64-year-old mother both can look at Mario and know that's Mario. Like, but yeah, that's a fun topic to talk about for sure. Definitely enjoyed it, but I think that is all of the topics on there. Yep. Well, cool. I never know how to end the stream.
We should do a song and dance number.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Closing time.
3 people got that reference.
Yeah, I
And
know.
I'm one of them.
We're really aging ourselves here. Just in case you didn't know, it's the time to buy all your alcohol and beer. You can go anywhere, but you can't stay here.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out on the stream and checking us out. Think we're going to kick it off and do it weekly. It's a lot of fun. It really doesn't take a whole lot of effort to set up. So we have zero excuses. If we miss a week, just like berate us. Like chew us out in the comments. So guys, you said every week. But yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for checking us out. And we'll see you in the next one. See y'all.
See you guys.